You might have noticed that the title for this video clip was a specific song, a specific dance group for an aparima at Heva i Tahiti in 1995. Now, Heva is an annual festival celebrating traditional Tahitian music and dance and other manifestations of traditional culture. And when we say traditional, it's always a tricky word because it keeps transforming. And these string instruments, for example, of course, are inspired by European string instruments. And this presentation in 1995, in the festival, certain things have also been transformed. One of the things is now there is a group of musicians that are playing the instruments and singing while being mic'd or acoustically amplified. Back in the older days, of course, that would be all acoustic. So you would hear the dancers also singing a lot more clearly. Right now, it kind of looks in this video like there is a group of singers and string players, and it looks like the dancers are just kind of mouthing the words, but they're also singing. So that's one thing that is a little bit different between Hawaii and Tahiti, is that traditionally not all the singers, not all the dancers in Hawaiian hula kahiko would also chant. There are some presentations today where it's like a unison or group or monophonic chant. More often than not, it's the kumu. Remember that word? The master chanter / drummer who would provide that chant, and the dancers would simply dance. That's Hawaii I'm talking about. Here in Tahiti, more typical that the whole group of dancers would also sing the song. All right, our next representative genre is the ute, which is best described as a narrative song with string band, usually a female lead vocal. And when we say a narrative song, it's usually poking some fun at relationships, marital relationships, romantic relationships, and just, you know, the struggles that go on between the male and the female. And so take a look at this. You won't understand the language, but maybe that gives you a little insight as to what's being talked about. Again, you can see this.
Te mauto mite tamana oire te huira tira manawa tato te wharere ira ini ai te tahua vai e te 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 parau e te mauto mite te parau no te vai te parau e te mauto mite te parau no te vai e paura e ai te ma o ira te parau no te vai oro e te ma o ira te parau no te vai e a here a tu to vai ki tau to vai ki tau e au te tai tau e hoi ti mai te o toi ti ti au te tai tau e hoi ti mai te o toi ti ti nura e ana panapa te miti to tere e au te hi te mai ana panapa te miti to tere e au te hi te mana e na te vai tai tai au ta pe o te penua na te vai tai tai au ta pe o te penua e na te vai tai tai au ta pe o te penua na te vai tai au ta pe o te penua e ah he ah he te parau e te mauto mite te parau no te vai te parau e te mauto mite te parau no te vai e pautau here ai te mau ira te parau no te vai tau pautau here ai te mau ira te parau no te vai tau e a here atu to vai ki tau a here atu to vai ki tau e au te tai tau e hoi ti mai te o toi ti ti au te tai tau e hoi ti mai te o toi ti ti nura e ana panapa te miti to tere e au te hi te mai ana panapa te miti to tere Ai. Ai, ai. Te e te parau e te mautomi te uira tira tātou pauro. Aue, nā te mai ti taita ia oe, tape ai oe vai e te ai.
The next thing I want to show you is called the tamore, or the ori Tahiti, the couples dance accompanied by drums. Now, you'll see that there's a lot of similarities in basic movement and basic energy of this type of presentation to the otea. So the otea, a group dance, the one we saw was females only, but that can often be males and females in their own lines. Participating in that. And the tamore is a couple dance where there's a little bit more direct interaction and kind of flirting. So you might think of it as Tahitian flirting dance. Okay, to summarize now our presentation on Tahiti, kind of short and sweet and to the point, Tahiti became an icon of South Seas exoticism in the late 1700s. There are a lot of reasons for that I didn't go into in great detail. Some of those things will come out as we discuss the Cook Islands in the next session and make some comparisons. But for whatever reason, this one relatively small island, relatively small population within a larger island group they call the Society Islands, within a larger nation today called French Polynesia, and in a vast section of the South Pacific, that this one island became it kind of came to symbolize that dark skin, dark hair, alluring exoticism during the colonial era in the late 1700s. Remember the idea of the noble savage as part of Europe's Enlightenment era. Now again, the word almost becomes ironic when you consider the ideas they had about non-Europeans. But nonetheless, that's a term that they used during that historical era. That's a term that European and Euro-American historians use. Remember the idea of hegemonic control during Western colonization. These outsiders imposing their will and their values, their way of dressing upon the ones they colonized. A very important idea that we'll explore more and more in the next couple of sessions is the idea of intra-regional cultural exchange in the South Pacific. In other words, we have the entire Pacific, and today we refer to three main island groups: Polynesia, Melanesia, and Micronesia. Within each of those regions, there was cultural exchange, and even in, let's say, the southern part of Polynesia, there's a certain kind of intra-regional or inter-island cultural exchange. In the western part of Polynesia, there's another kind or another level of intra-regional cultural exchange. We'll see that when we discuss Samoa and Tonga, for example. Now, to set up the next discussion, the next module, the next session, there are great similarities between Tahitian and Cook Islands cultures. Certain dance genres are very similar. They might have different names. Certain instruments are very similar, although they might have different names. Here's a video clip that just brings this kind of connection to our consciousness, and maybe as a sneak preview of the next discussion.
Oia, e makera, kereira bai ohiba. Te wasi pani Didier.
Again, as you look at the title of the video clip, you see that it comes from the Heva Festival in Tahiti back in 1986, so it's been a while now, over 20 years, and there is a separate drumming competition. Of course, these drumming groups will accompany the Otea dances and the Tamure dances, but there's also a separate competition for the drumming groups, and so they're kind of center stage and in the spotlight, so to speak. Now, what I want to point out this one is that it is using several different kinds of instruments from Tahiti and several from the Cook Islands. In the center, you see a larger log drum that is horizontal. It's on a stand laying across parallel to the ground. And that is a Cook Islands style drumming on a drum called the pate. The smaller one, you see a man who much of the time is like bending over on the left hand side, playing a very small log idiophone, and that one is called tokere in the Cook Islands. And both of those drummers are playing with 2 sticks. That's a Cook Island style, and those are Cook Islands drums. Then you also see several drummers playing slit log idiophones that are kind of standing up on their end. In other words, they're perpendicular to the ground. And those are the Tahitian to'ere, played with 1 stick. Then you see several different membranophones. Over on the far left, a kind of a modern style of pahu based on a Western military drum, a European military drum. And over on the far right, a kind of taller membranophone creating a deep sound. And that is a more traditional style of pahu in Cook Islands and in Tahiti. In Cook Islands called pa'u, and Tahiti pahu.